Hey guys, Jexie here. Welcome back to another video. So as many of you know, September is Recovery Month. And a friend of mine who is also a YouTuber, her name is Megan, I am going to link her channel in the description, decided to do a ABCs of Recovery in honor of the R is for Recovery theme of Recovery Month. So she invited other YouTubers to create videos using the same idea that she did. Again, I'm going to link her channel and the video I'm referencing down in the description. So this video is going to be what I would say are my ABCs of recovery. So our first letter is the letter A, and for me, A stands for abstinence. Although abstinence doesn't have to be a way of recovery for everybody, abstinence for me is really important. I know that I can't just have one drink. I know that if I go to smoke a little bit of pot, it's going to lead to other things for me. Although abstinence doesn't necessarily need to be a part of recovery for everybody, it's definitely a big part of recovery for me. B stands for belief. Belief that I can do this. Belief that things will get better. Belief that recovery is possible. Without having a belief that recovery is possible, it would be really hard for me to stick with the program. C stands for complacency. Complacency can be a huge danger for me in recovery. When I think that I don't need to actively work on my own recovery program because I have some clean time, I can put myself in a really dangerous situation. I need to remember that just because I have clean time doesn't mean that I'm exempt from ever relapsing. And complacency is the first step in a relapse. D for me stands for depression. Although I don't have clinical depression, I do get seasonal depression. And I can find that when I have those really negative feelings that zaps me of my energy, it can be really easy for me to be triggered. I use drugs because they gave me like a pep in my step, right? I felt like when I used, I was able to like clean the house the best and be there for my kids, and I was like Wonder Woman and can do all, everything I wanted to do all at once. And when I feel depressed and I have no energy, that's a spot where it's really dangerous for me to be. So E is for excitement. Recovery should be exciting. Getting our lives back and having a new way to live without drugs is exciting. And we shouldn't lose that excitement throughout recovery, regardless of how much clean time we have. Look, a day clean is a miracle for any addict. It's something you hear often. And, I remember the very first time I felt that level of excitement in recovery, and I was only about 6 months clean, and I was at a convention with other recovering addicts, and getting to feel that, excitement, not just from myself, but being around other people who are excited about recovery made the whole process a lot more fun. So F is for fun. I need to have fun in recovery. I did not get clean to be bored. Sitting at home and not doing anything is not what recovery is to me. Now look, at the beginning, it was really hard for me to interact with other people, but today, fun doesn't have to be like going out clubbing and going to the bars, right? I've learned how to have fun with my kids. I've learned to have fun at home. I've learned to have fun at, going out with people and not needing drugs or alcohol to make the experience be fun, right? Even trivia that I do Wednesday nights on this channel, it's fun. And that's the whole idea about why I started doing trivia on YouTube to begin with, is that recovery needs to be fun. Otherwise, what's the point? So G is for gratitude. Gratitude is, for me, the number one most important thing in recovery. If I don't remain grateful, I will eventually use again. One of the slogans you hear a lot in 12-step programs is, a grateful addict will never use. So when I feel down or when things seem to be going awry, the first thing I do is make a gratitude list. Going through all the things that I'm grateful for in my recovery can help keep me focused on a positive mindset, so I don't get all bogged down in the negative. H stands for help. I need help. And we get to help others. Recovery is not a lone person's journey, right? Recovery is about coming together with other people and doing it together. I need help. I can't do this alone. And now that I have some experience in recovery, I'm able to offer help to others. It's a we thing. We do this together. I is for independence. Although I may need help in areas, I also need to learn and be confident that I can do things alone again. I'm good enough and I'm able to do things. I don't need the help of a substance to make me be able to talk to people or help me clean the house or even to have fun, right? I can do those things inside. It's an inside job. So having the independence and being able to stand up for myself and fight for what I know I need to do in my own recovery. That's how we stay clean. J is for joy, because let me tell you, I remember the feeling right before I got clean, the hopelessness, the helplessness, the pure sickness that I was living in. And knowing that I don't ever have to wake up feeling that type of miserable again is a level of joy I can't even explain to you. Being in recovery is the most joyful experience, even at its hardest points, because I'm no longer being controlled by my disease. K is for kindness. The kindness that people have shown me in my recovery. When I wasn't able to love myself, people in recovery loved me. They listened to me when I shared the most awful, terrible things about myself. They were there for me when I didn't know how to be there for myself. And now I do my part in trying to spread that kindness by fighting against stigma, both from other addicts and from those who don't suffer from addiction. Stigma is a real problem, and it's through kindness that we can show that recovery has a face, and it looks like everybody. Just as there's no one way of being, like no addict looks like another, right? Like it transcends race, culture, class, right? So does recovery. And we need to not be afraid to show our faces as recovering addicts. And the only way that we can get rid of that stigma is through kindness, being in recovery and being good people. L is for lonely. Sometimes in recovery, I do feel lonely. It's real easy to get stuck in a place where I feel like nobody understands me or nobody gets it. When I start feeling lonely, I know I need to reach out to other addicts. I need to share about how I'm feeling, because it is so easy for me to be in a room full of people and feel alone. And that, for me, is also just like complacency can be dangerous in recovery, loneliness can too. If I don't think that anybody cares or anybody understands, then I'm so much more willing to let my brain run wild with ideas. And for the most part, my disease thinking is just that. It's disease thinking. I need other people to help me through. Being lonely is never a good place for an addict to be. M stands for mindfulness. Just being aware of how we're thinking and what we're doing. Understanding that sometimes we may perceive things in ways that others don't. It's why having a recovery network is such a huge part of recovery. I've never seen an addict get off drugs and stay clean completely alone. We need each other. And being mindful of the fact that not all of our decisions and choices are good. So we can ask other people for help. We can rely on other sources. We don't have to have all the answers. And by being mindful, we recognize when maybe our answers are wrong. N. For me, N stands for Narcotics Anonymous. Now, there is no one way to recover, and I in no way promote or advocate for any one program, but Narcotics Anonymous is a program that works for me. I am very involved in Narcotics Anonymous, which is a 12-step program for those who don't know. And for me, it's been a pivotal part of my recovery. I could not do recovery without that program. Now, I know a lot of people who don't use it. They use other 12-step programs. They use, there's a whole variety of ways to get clean and do recovery. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying because I do NA, that's the only way. I don't believe that at all. I believe that there's a way for everybody, and everybody's path is different. For me, NA is just a huge part of my program. O stands for open-mindedness. The more open-minded I am, the more able I am to really see the world in a different way. I need to recognize that my first thoughts and my first responses to things may not always be the right way, and I need to be open-minded to learn that there's other ways. And I'll tell you this, learning to be open-minded in recovery has helped me tremendously in being open-minded in other areas. If you can be open-minded to how other people are recovering and ways that may help me stay clean, I can be more open-minded in terms of politics or religion or any other of these big topics that people talk about where there's always a lot of animosity. If you've seen anybody who knows me who's had these like deep discussions with me on other topics, knows that like I may be very passionate about things, but I am always open-minded to new ideas. Open-mindedness can help not just in recovery, but in helping us be better people as a whole. P stands for persistence. Recovery takes persistence. It is an everyday, like, I don't want to say struggle because it's not really a struggle for me today, but it takes work every day to stay in recovery. I've heard people say you're either working towards recovery or you're working towards relapse, right? And so I want to make sure that every day I am consistently working towards my recovery. I do something recovery related every day. I reach out to you guys. I talk to you guys all the time, and that is a huge part of my own program, right? Persistence, keeping up, even when things get hard. I reach out, I tell people what's going on. I go to meetings or I call a sponsor, right? Persistence is how we stay clean. Q is for quiet. Recovery has taught me how to just be comfortable in the quiet. Before, when I was in active addiction, if it was quiet, my mind was racing. The thoughts going through my head, I couldn't sleep. I was constantly anxious. But as I've been in recovery and learned recovery techniques, I've been comfortable in the quiet. That's something that I think everybody can benefit from, whether you're in recovery or not. Just learning how to quiet your mind, how to let go of everything that's stressing you out and just be in the present. That's really helpful, not just in recovery. And R, of course, is for recovery, which is the theme for this month's, for September, Recovery Month. Recovery has so many faces. Recovery is not one size fits all. And recovery doesn't have just one right way. I know a lot of different people who are in recovery. I know a lot of people on YouTube in recovery, and we all talk, and none of us does things exactly the same way. What's important to remember is that recovery is personal. What keeps you clean may cause me to use, and what keeps me clean may cause you to use. We need to listen to other recovering addicts and find what works for us. What do we think is going to help us stay clean? It's okay if what works for you is different than what works for me. There's no judgment in recovery. At least there shouldn't be. We need to be open to other ideas because the fact is that what works for me today may not work for me tomorrow. We need to know that recovery is, and our ideas of what recovery is and how we can actively work a recovery program constantly changes, even as science comes and more studies are done that gives us more information about recovery. We can learn new techniques and new ideas that can help us in our day-to-day recovery that maybe we didn't know about before. S stands for surrender. I need to surrender to the fact that I am an addict. It is not easy to know that I am a drug addict for life. I deal with stigma, which is a huge problem for most of us who are in recovery. It hurts. It hurts to know that people judge us based on the fact that we have a disease. Nowhere else do people get judged for having a disease like those of us with addiction get judged. But by surrendering to this, by surrendering to the programs of recovery and accepting the fact that I'm an addict, I don't have to let that stigma and that negativity define me. I can learn how to be myself in recovery. But if I get wrapped up in these negative thoughts, I can let that tear me down. So surrender is important. T stands for truth. I need to be honest and truthful in everything I do. Part of my recovery program today is being 100% honest and telling the truth. I need people in my life that I can speak to truthfully and who will give me the truth back. I don't need people in my life who tell me what I want to hear. I need people in my life who tell me what I need to hear. Staying clean is not always easy, and addicts are fairly good manipulators. I could tell you a story in a way that would make you give me the answer I want to hear, but that's not going to help me. I need people who will tell me the truth. Tell me when I'm doing something wrong. point out in, things that I need to work on. It's funny. It's one of the ways you can tell somebody who's like actively working a recovery program versus somebody who maybe isn't on drugs but isn't working a recovery program is how well do they take criticism. If you tell someone nicely some type of critique, those of us who are actively working in a recovery program can really hear it, sit down, think about it, and look, maybe we let it go. Maybe we don't agree with it. Maybe we don't think it's helpful. But you'll find that most people who are really working a recovery program don't automatically throw away what other people's critiques are, because we're taught that other people can see truth in us that maybe we can't see ourselves. U is for understanding. Having an understanding that recovery is hard. The longer we're in this program, sometimes we lack understanding for newcomers. We're quick to push them out or to make it seem like they're not working hard enough or doing enough, forgetting the fact that we were newcomers once ourselves. We need to have understanding that everybody's recovery program is different and not everybody's journey is the same. Some people come in and out of recovery for a long time before it sticks. We need to be understanding. We need to be open and welcome and love them no matter what. We never want someone to feel that recovery is not for them. No matter what program that you use or what program you're in, we need to make sure that we create an open, loving, understanding atmosphere so that when someone walks in off the street, when someone who is struggling reaches out to us, that we can be understanding and show them unconditional love no matter what. V is for various. As I said before, there are various ways to work a recovery program. The most important thing is that it works for you. There's a lot of judgment even within recovery, which is something I do not understand. There is no reason to judge people whether they're on maintenance medication, whether they decide to use some sort of other substance on occasion, maybe they use a different recovery program than you do, whatever it is. Just because that particular way may not work for me doesn't mean it doesn't work. And we need to accept the fact that there are various ways to recover, and that if somebody is doing the research and they're talking to doctors and talking to other people and they've come up with a way that works for them, then that's amazing. We shouldn't judge that just because it's different from us, because let's be real, we've had some pretty bad, points of view in the past. What's to say that our way is always the right way? We have to understand that there are various ways to recover. No two people are exactly the same. W is for willingness. The willingness to do whatever it takes to stay clean. This is huge. It is so easy to come into recovery and say, well, I'm willing to do, A, B, and C, but I am not willing to do D, E, and F, right? We need to be willing to do anything and everything to stay clean. Recovery is hard. It is a struggle some days, especially at the beginning. We need to be willing to completely let go, have other people help guide us, and take suggestions. The more willing we are to stay clean, the better off we'll be in recovery. Think about what you were willing to do to get your next high. You should be willing to do at least that much to stay clean. So, X, I had to look up online to find words that begin with X. And I'm going to put it up on the screen. It's like exodokial, maybe? I don't know. Pardon me if I'm wrong. I'll put it up. And it says kindness to strangers is the definition, which I thought was totally appropriate. In recovery, in a lot of recovery programs, we meet lots of strangers. We meet strangers all the time that are in recovery, and we always want to show them a kindness. We meet people from, think about it, like programs like NA are worldwide, right? There are addicts everywhere. And what's amazing about most recovery programs is you can walk into a room filled with strangers and they all show kindness. So I just thought that word was appropriate. Y is for yes. Yes, you can do this. Yes, you can stay clean. Yes, you can have a better way of life. Yes, you can stop using drugs. It is all possible. When you do the next right thing, you take the next step forward and you do your best. It is possible to live a life without drugs. You can do this. If I can do this, You can do this. And Z is for zealous. Go at recovery as if it's everything, because it is. When you can put recovery first, when you can make recovery your way of life, everything else gets easier. I can tell you that my life now, I'll have 7 years in November, God willing, and my life is so much better now than it ever was. But I am still enthusiastic about recovery. I am excited, and I want other people to get that. Getting off drugs doesn't have to suck. It does sometimes, especially at the beginning, but that doesn't mean like your life is over, that like everything is going to be terrible now, right? Like, no, recovery gives you life back. It doesn't take it away. So those are my ABCs of recovery. Again, please check out Megan's video. This was her idea. I want to thank Megan so much for allowing me to take her idea and do my own ABCs of recovery. There are a lot of great YouTubers out there who are doing recovery-based content. I am not the only one. So look around. You'll see there's some great people out there. Again, Megan, thank you. You're amazing. And for everybody out there struggling to get a day clean, like, you can do this. You're not alone. And together, we can help each other stay clean, just one day at a time. Hope you liked this video. If you did, please leave a thumb up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you guys Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for trivia. Love you all. Bye, guys.